If you found this is a sign. Well, welcome everyone to our second call of the 5 elements of intimacy. And I am super excited about all of you joining me. And I hope I'm audible now. Anju, thank you for letting me know earlier that I was not audible. So today we're going to talk about another element of the 5 elements of intimacy, being trust. Yesterday we spoke about honoring. Today we're going to touch upon trust. Trust is that energy. Trust is generally looked upon as an energy of belief. Belief in a person's capacity, belief in a person's ability, and believing that they will do what they will do simply because I expect them to do that. And then you label that as trust. You call that trust. But most of us do not recognize that trust is this inherent knowing that what you know is true. It's also an energy of where you trust people to be who they be without the need to change them to be somebody different, without the need for them to show up as someone different, without the belief that if I pray hard enough, if I work hard enough on them, if I just show them how much I love them, they will change. No, that is not trusting that they will change. That is hoping and praying and having blind faith that they will change. Similarly, you could have faith and trust that if I work just hard enough, if I work 5 hours more, if I work 10 hours more, then I will create more money, then I will be successful. So you go into making the hours so relevant that you now start to hope that if you start to work hard and you start to believe that if I start to work harder, then I will create more money. So now you are no longer the source of choice. You are no longer choosing to create. You are actually making something else a source of creation that's outside of you. In this case, working hard or time, right? So trust, in fact, is about you. It's where you trust you. You trust your choices. You trust who you are. You trust what you know. Like you all know. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining in. You trust people for being who they be and knowing that they will not change unless they choose to change. It's not that they will change if I love them enough, or they will change if I go pray hard enough. No, they're not going to change then. They're going to only change if they choose to change. And that is trusting. That is you trusting the process. That is you knowing that what you know is true. When you doubt what you create, or when you doubt what you know, you have replaced the trust in you with the doubt of you. And now you're looking outside of you who you can trust. So now instantly you made somebody else the source of your creation that is outside of you, instead of trusting what you know. So, let's take an example here. Like, say for instance, if you want to create something, okay, maybe a business or maybe a project you're working upon, and people come to you and they tell you, oh, this is not going to work because A, B, C, D, or don't do this because this is not going to work for you, or don't do this, you're going to lose your money. And they come and they give you all these different opinions, which may be true for them, but it's not necessarily true for you. But what do you generally do? You start to believe them, and you start to buy into their point of view, and you start to trust them way more than you trust what you know. A question you can always ask here is, what part of this is true for me and what part of this is a lie? Because what is true for you will always be light. It will always create greater for you. What is not true for you will be heavy, which does not necessarily mean that it's not right. It's just that it's not true for you. It could be true for somebody else. But would you be willing to trust what is true for you? Would you be willing to trust what you know? Or will you doubt what you know, and will you go into this belief system and this blind faith of what people tell you, how to do, what to do, where to do, when to do, and why to do. So when you trust, trust is a very big element in creating intimacy with anything or anybody. Now, we talk about the 5 elements of intimacy, but the 5 elements of intimacy is not necessarily only with people. We generally look at intimacy as, like we talked about it in yesterday's call, we try to look for intimacy with people, which means touch and feel and maybe a snuggle or maybe a cuddle. But in actuality, intimacy is way beyond that. It's way more energetic. It's way deeper than just what is physical. And the intimacy that we're talking about here is that you can have with not only people, but with your own body, with your being, with money, with your business, with your children, with your home, with nature. I mean, nature is one of the most beautiful examples of the 5 elements of intimacy. And the more and more you ask to be like nature, the more you will start to be the 5 elements of intimacy. Nature trusts itself. It does not need anyone to go and validate it and tell it that, oh, your tree is so beautiful, your mangoes are so lovely. The tree couldn't be bothered, right? And that's the same energy with people, that when you are seeking validation, you are not trusting who you be. So now the validation that you receive from people from outside of you makes you feel good, makes you feel like, oh yeah, I'm on the right track. But validation is actually an invalidation, because validation is always a judgment. Validation is always a judgment that has you judging yourself as right, and every invalidation is a judgment that has you judging yourself as wrong. Hey Ninta, hello Kanika, thank you all for joining. We are just talking about the 5 elements of intimacy. Yesterday we talked about honoring, and today we are talking about trust. And when you don't have, so when you're living your life from the space of I need validation to know that what I'm doing is right, there's a lack of acknowledgement in your world that you have replaced with the need of validation. So instead of seeking validation so you can trust yourself, start to ask, what can I acknowledge about myself that can have me trust myself more? What do I know about this that I'm not acknowledging? What can I add to my life that can have me receive way more clarity with this? These are different questions that you can play with. These are different, ways of looking at the energy of trust. Instead of looking at them from this reality of having blind faith in something or somebody, start to trust what you know. So you can always question it. And it's not about calling out to them and saying, hey, I know you're lying. No, that's not what the idea here is. It's about acknowledging to yourself that, okay, they're lying. And do they really think I don't know? It's about acknowledging to yourself, because you, the being, all you require is you acknowledging your knowing and trusting what you know. So that's a little conversation around trust, which is one of the elements of the 5 elements of intimacy. We will touch upon the 3rd one tomorrow. And we do have the book club coming up, The 5 Elements of Intimacy, written by Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here. And we also have a 3-hour class coming up based on this particular topic. And if you would like to know more, you can always reach out. Let's create a world where the 5 elements of intimacy is the dominating energy. Thank you all for joining and see you all tomorrow.